Now, let's solve the questions from Independent Practice, page 47. Let's start by the first question, which is 7 to the power of minus 10. How can we write this number in terms of positive exponent? How can we do that? We simply change the place of the factor here to the denominator, which is 1 actually, and then change the sign of the exponents. So again, we can write 1 over 7 to the power of how much? 10, positive, not negative. We change the sign. 10 to the power of positive 10. Okay, what about number 2? Number 2 is negative 5 to the power of negative 4. Okay, so how can we calculate this? We just start by getting rid of this negative exponent. Okay, so that's the same process. We change the place of this number from the numerator to the denominator, which is actually at first it was 1. Then we can write it like this: 1 over negative 5. And now the negative 5 become with the exponent of how much? Positive 4. And we can calculate this. So we can write 1 over, is it, this is a negative here. So we look at the exponent. Is it odd or even? It's even. So the answer will be positive. Positive how much? 5 to the power of 4. If you calculate that, you will see that it is equal to 625. 625 positive. Okay, you don't have to calculate it. If you write it in this form, that's true. If you write this in this form, it's true, because I ask you to write it in terms of positive exponent. So you don't have to calculate it. Okay, let's move to number 3. Number 3 is g to the power of negative 7. Okay, so the same rule. We simply change its place from the numerator to the denominator, then change the sign of the exponents. So we can write it 1 over g to the power of positive 7. Okay, what about number 4? Number 4, just the same as them. W to the negative 13 will be equal, change the place, 1 over w, and then change the sign, 1 over w to the power of 13. Okay, what about number 5? Number 5 is 1 over 12 to the 4th. Okay, how can we write these? So the new question now is to write these numbers in terms of negative exponents. The second part of the questions in independent practice. How can we write this in terms of negative exponents? We just change the place of the factor, and now we write it in the numerator, and then change the sign of the exponents. So we have to the power of negative 4. Okay, what about number 6? Number 6 is 1 over negative 5 to the power of 7. How can we write it in terms of negative exponents? Just change the place of the factor and then change the sign of the exponents. So we write it in the numerator now, and the exponents sign will be negative because it was positive, so we write it as negative. Okay. Okay, so now number 7, which is 1 over 125. 125. How can we write this in terms of negative exponents? First of all, we should have exponents. How can we write this number here, 125, in terms of exponents? Well, we know that 5 times 5 times 5 gives us 125. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 gives us 125. So, from lesson 2, how can we write these in terms of exponents? We have a repeated factor, which is 5, repeated 1, 2, 3 times. So we can write it is equal to 5 to the third. 5 cubed is equal to 125. So we can replace it by 1 over 5 to the third. And now we have an exponent in the question. So it is a positive exponent and we need to write it in terms of negative exponents. How do we do that? The same rule as the previous examples. We just change the place of that factor. If in the denominator, change it to the numerator, and if it was in the numerator, move it to the denominator, and then change the sign of the exponents. Do not forget to change the sign. So we move it to the numerator now. It will be equal to 5 to the power of 3? Of course no. We do not forget the negative sign. 5 to the power of negative 3. That's for 7. Let's try number 8. Pause the video now and try to solve number 8, which 1 over 1024. Okay? Pause the video and try to solve it. Try to think what are the numbers, what is the number that can be written in terms of exponents from this number. Okay? You may take some time to know that, but this is 2 to the power of 10. 2 to the power of 10. 2 to the power of 10 is equal to 1024. Okay? If you didn't manage to calculate that, just stop the video now and try to write this factor in terms of negative exponent. Pause it. Okay? If you play the video now so that you solve the question and you need to check your answer just. Okay? Let's solve it here. 1 over 1024 and 24 is equal to 1 over 2 to the power of 10, as we said here. Okay, how can we write it in terms of negative exponents? Easy. We move the factor here from the denominator to the numerator. So it's going to be now 2 to the power of 10. Now, is this right? No, something is missing. The second step is to change the sign of the exponent. So we need to write it negative because it was positive. That's it for positive and negative exponents. See you in next lesson. Thank you.